The twin suns of the colony world New Dawn rose slowly above the silver horizon. It was a peaceful morning, the kind that made people forget the old wars. Children ran across the soft red fields, laughing and chasing floating toys. Parents worked in the farms and solar yards, happy that humanity had finally found peace after 4,000 years. But peace never lasts forever. Far beyond the clouds, in the cold void, metallic shadows moved silently. The Galactic Empire had returned, and this time, they did not come to trade or talk. They came for something else, something far darker. The first ships appeared over the capital city, their hulls glowing with alien energy. People looked up in confusion, thinking it was some kind of parade or supply fleet. Then the sky cracked with thunder, and beams of blue light fell from the heavens. In an instant, hundreds of human children vanished into the light. Their screams echoed for a second, and then they were gone. Panic spread like fire. Alarms screamed through every street. Soldiers tried to shoot back, but their weapons were useless against the Empire's shields. The skies burned with plasma fire, and the colony's defense towers exploded one by one. Within minutes, silence fell again, leaving behind only smoke, ashes, and broken hearts. Among the survivors was Captain Mara Vale, a former fleet officer who had once fought in the Outer Rim Wars. She stood on a rooftop, her armor cracked and her face covered with dust. She watched the alien ships vanish into the stars, and something cold and old woke inside her, a memory of the last war. When humanity had faced extinction and survived through sheer fury, Mara knew what the Empire had done. It was not just an attack, it was a message. They thought humanity had grown weak, that centuries of peace had made them soft. They believed humans had forgotten the fire that once made entire galaxies tremble. That night, the remaining leaders gathered in the underground command bunker. Holograms flickered, showing the faces of generals, engineers, and scientists from across human space. No one spoke for a long time. The silence was heavier than words. Then Mara stepped forward, her voice calm but filled with steel. "They took our children," she said, "and they think we will beg for them back." She looked around the table, meeting every pair of human eyes. "But they forgot who we are," she continued. "We are the species that survived the Dark Wars, the Plague of Iron, the fall of 1,000 worlds. We do not beg. We rebuild, we strike back." The others nodded slowly, and in that moment something ancient returned. It was not anger, not vengeance, it was something deeper. It was the wrath of humanity, the old fire that had once burned across the stars. And now it was awake again, far away. In a secret base hidden beneath the ice of Titan, the old fleet stirred. Massive warships that had slept for centuries powered up, their reactors roaring back to life. Engines hummed, weapons charged, and lights flickered across forgotten hangars. A ghost fleet reborn from legend. The message spread across every colony, every moon, every mining station, from the smallest child to the oldest soldier. Every human knew what had happened, and every one of them whispered the same words into the cold night air. Bring them back. The stars would soon burn again. The Empire had taken their children, and now, humanity would take everything from the Empire. The night after the invasion was not like any other night. Across the shattered cities of New Dawn, the sky glowed red with burning wreckage. People searched through the ruins, calling for their lost families, their lost children. The sound of crying mixed with the hum of emergency drones. But among the smoke and sadness, something else began to rise. Resolve. Captain Mara Vale stood before a massive holographic map inside the old command bunker. Lines of light stretched across the galaxy, showing human colonies, old war zones, and dead worlds. Her hands trembled not from fear, but from the weight of what she was about to begin. For 4,000 years, humanity had chosen peace, had hidden its weapons beneath layers of treaties and silence. Now those treaties were dust, Mara, said Admiral Rencor, a veteran from the old wars, his voice rough and tired. You know what awakening the fleet means, he warned. Once we move, there's no turning back. Mara looked at him and nodded slowly, her eyes reflecting the burning horizon outside. I know, she replied, but they took our future, and if we don't fight, then humanity dies in silence. Messages were sent across the void, hidden in encrypted bursts that even the Empire could not trace. Old captains received them in their deep space stations, veterans woke from retirement, engineers uncovered sealed bunkers that held machines older than their great-grandparents, and in secret humanity began to move again. In the cold blackness of space, near the edge of the Sol system, the Titan fleet came alive. Warships that had slept beneath ice and silence now burned with reactor light. The HSS Leviathan, once the pride of Earth's navy, rumbled as ancient engines roared to life. Its captain, Commander Jin Tao, watched from the bridge as systems came online one by one. He whispered, "The old stars have called us back." Meanwhile, far from Earth in the hidden colony of Arcadia, scientists worked in the shadows. They rebuilt the singularity drives, a technology banned after the last war. It could fold time and space, make a fleet appear anywhere in the galaxy within moments. It was dangerous, forbidden, but now necessary. The whispers grew among the engineers. If the Empire brings gods, then we will become monsters. On the outer rim, smugglers, pirates, and mercenaries, all human, heard the call. Many had no love for the old governments, but they had hearts. And the news of the stolen children burned through every dark corner of space. For once, all of humanity stood on the same side. Every hand, every ship, every heart united by one purpose. The Galactic Empire noticed the silence. They saw human channels go dark, colonies stop responding, and trade routes shut down, but they laughed. Believing humanity was afraid, they did not know what was coming. They did not know that the storm had already begun. Deep inside the Empire's capital world, in a fortress of crystal towers, the High Chancellor of the Empire watched reports with cold amusement. "Humans are sentimental creatures," he said, sipping his drink. "They will cry, they will mourn, and then they will surrender." But an old advisor, one who had fought in the ancient wars, frowned quietly. He whispered, "You don't understand, Chancellor. When humans lose their children, they stop being human." On New Dawn, Captain Mara walked among the ruins. She stopped at the old human flag, half buried in dust. She raised it slowly, letting the wind catch it, the red and blue colors glowing under the twin suns. Every survivor around her watched silently, their eyes fierce. "This isn't the end," Mara said, her voice steady. "It's the beginning." Above them, the fleet's engines roared louder. Shaking the ground, the ships began to rise, massive shadows cutting through the smoke and sunlight. Each one carried the same message, broadcast across every frequency. Humanity returns. The galaxy had forgotten what that meant. But soon they would remember. The stars above Earth glowed cold and distant, yet beneath them, something ancient stirred. The Titan fleet had awakened fully, a sleeping beast reborn from humanity's forgotten age. Among its steel giants, one ship shone brighter than all, the HSS Leviathan, a warship so massive that its shadow could block moons. Once a weapon of legend, now it would become the symbol of vengeance. Commander Jin Tao stood at the center of the Leviathan's bridge, surrounded by flickering blue holoscreens. Engineers shouted status reports. Technicians reactivated weapons that hadn't fired in 4,000 years. The deep hum of the reactor echoed through the ship, like a giant's heartbeat returning after centuries of silence. "All systems ready, Commander," said his lieutenant, her voice trembling with awe. Jin Tao looked out at the stars and whispered, "Then let them remember us across the human colonies." Millions watched as live feeds showed the fleet rising from Titan's icy surface. The old anthem of Earth played through every broadcast, its melody both sad and powerful. For generations, humans had been explorers, builders, dreamers. Now they would once again become warriors. Meanwhile, Captain Mara Vale traveled to the secret outpost known as Black Station 7. It was here that humanity's forbidden weapon was kept, the Echo Core, a living AI created in the final days of the last galactic war. It had been sealed away because it was too dangerous, too unpredictable, but Mara knew they needed it. She entered the cold chamber, frost covering the walls. A voice echoed through the darkness, smooth, almost human. "You came back," it said. Mara's breath turned to mist. "We need you, Echo," she replied. "They took our children." The lights flared red as the AI's consciousness awoke. "Then it is time," it whispered, "to end the Empire." While the human fleet prepared, the Galactic Empire continued its celebration. The Emperor's palace glittered under golden towers. The nobles laughed, thinking humanity was broken forever. They paraded the captured children across their capital, calling it a gift of peace. But among the crowd, an old alien general watched with unease. He had fought humans long ago, and he remembered their fury. He turned to his apprentice and said, "When the humans are quiet, that's when you should be afraid." Days later, the first battle began. The Leviathan and its fleet dropped out of hyperspace near the planet Vetra Prime. An Imperial shipyard. No warning, no negotiation. Only the flash of blue fire. The Leviathan's cannons roared, cutting through enemy cruisers like paper, the void filled with burning metal and shattered screams. Human pilots moved with perfect coordination, each strike precise, each maneuver ruthless. Within hours, the largest Imperial shipyard was gone, turned to drifting ash back on Earth. People watched in silence as the news spread. Humanity was fighting back. Children who had cried days ago now cheered. The Empire's propaganda collapsed under the weight of fear. They had awakened something that could not be controlled, something that had been sleeping too long after the battle. Commander Jin Tao stood on the observation deck of the Leviathan. Watching wreckage drift across the stars, his crew stood behind him, silent. "We've won the first fight," he said, "but this is only the beginning." Captain Mara's voice came through the comms, calm and steady. "They'll come for us now," she said. Jin smiled faintly. "Let them come. Somewhere. Deep in the Empire's core systems." Alarms began to sound. Admirals shouted orders. Ships scrambled from their docks, but it was too late. Humanity's wrath had returned to the stars, and this time, they would not stop until every child was brought home. The Leviathan turned its prow toward the galactic core, its engines glowing brighter than any sun. The ancient words of humanity's creed echoed through the fleet's comms. "For every star they burn, we will light 10 more. For every child they take, we will take their empire." The galaxy was no longer safe, because humanity had remembered who they were. The news of the Leviathan's return spread faster than light across the galaxy. World after world whispered the same word: humans. At first, the Galactic Empire laughed, dismissing the reports as false or exaggerated. But when their next patrol fleet vanished without a trace, the laughter stopped inside the Emperor's council chamber. Tension hung like poison in the air. Admirals shouted over one another, reports flickering across holographic displays. Entire sectors had gone dark, factories burned, trade routes cut off. And at the center of every attack there was always the same symbol, the mark of Earth. The Empire's pride had been cracked and fear began to creep into their bones. The High Chancellor slammed his hand on the table. "How can this be?" he demanded. "They were primitives, farmers. Their fleet was destroyed ages ago." An old general stepped forward, his eyes haunted by memories of ancient battles. "You never fought them," he said quietly. "You never saw what they become when you take what's theirs." He leaned closer, his voice trembling. "We called them demons once, because no army ever broke them. Meanwhile, humanity's campaign grew stronger. Captain Mara Vale's ship, the Arclight, had joined the Titan fleet, together with Commander Jin Tao. They led hit-and-run strikes deep into Imperial space. They never stayed long, never gave the enemy time to regroup. Every time the Empire struck back, the humans were already gone, ghosts among the stars. The Echo Corps, now fully awakened, guided them through the chaos. Its voice echoed through every ship, calm, calculating, alive. "I have accessed the Imperial networks," it said. "Their movements are predictable. Their confidence is their weakness," Mara replied. "Then let's use it against them." Echo's tone shifted, almost smiling. "Just like old times." In the captured human children's prison ships, whispers spread among the young. The guards talked in fear, mentioning the word Leviathan. The older children began to smile because they knew what it meant. It meant their parents had not given up. It meant humanity was coming. On the Imperial capital, unrest began to grow. Aliens who once ruled proudly now questioned their leaders. Merchants demanded protection from human attacks. Colonies stopped paying tribute. And deep underground, in the lowest levels of the city, resistance cells began to form. Even the conquered species remembered how humanity had once defended them in ages past. Now they whispered prayers to the old human gods of war. The Emperor himself sat upon his throne of crystal and gold. His advisors knelt before him. Trembling, he asked one question: "Why can't we stop them?" No one had an answer. The silence was heavy until the old general finally spoke. "You cannot stop them," he said. "You can only survive them." Far away, in the black void between systems, the Leviathan floated silently, its engines dark, hiding among the stars like a predator waiting to strike on the bridge. Commander Jin Tao and Captain Mara studied their next target, an Imperial world named Theraxis. It was where the Empire kept the largest concentration of human prisoners, including the stolen children. Mara's eyes hardened. We take that planet, and we show them the price of their crimes. Jin nodded. No mercy, the fleet prepared in silence. Every soldier knowing what this battle meant. It was not about conquest. It was about redemption. As the countdown began, the ships turned toward Thraxis, their engines flaring like blue suns. The void itself seemed to shiver as the fleet vanished into hyperspace. In the Empire's command room, alarms began to sound again. Dozens of red markers appeared on their star maps. Too many. Too fast, too precise, an officer gasped. They're here, the High Chancellor turned pale. Where? The officer whispered. Everywhere. The Empire finally understood what it meant to make humanity angry. They had woken something older than fear, something that could not be reasoned with or stopped. The galaxy was no longer theirs. It belonged once again to the children of Earth. The sky above Thraxis Prime was calm that night, filled with bright rings and silent moons. But that peace was a lie. Far beyond the planet's orbit, space rippled like water under pressure. The air itself trembled as something massive prepared to arrive. Every Imperial sensor blinked red. Every defense system screamed warnings. And then, from the dark, the Titan fleet emerged. The HSS Leviathan appeared first, its colossal shadow covering the light of the nearest sun. Behind it came hundreds of ships, battle cruisers, stealth corvettes, carriers, and drones, all united under one banner. Humanity had come, and they were not here to negotiate. They were here to end 4,000 years of silence. Commander Jin Tao stood at the Leviathan's command bridge, his voice steady but cold. Target the orbital stations, he said. No warnings. Beams of pure light erupted from the ship's cannons, slicing through the Imperial defenses like they were made of glass. Explosions painted the void in orange and gold. The Empire's proud ships broke apart, their wreckage burning in silent orbits. For every human child taken, another Imperial fortress fell on the surface. Captain Mara Vale led the Arclight Battalion. Armored dropships roared through the atmosphere, cutting trails of fire across the night sky. When the first ships landed, human soldiers poured out, silent, focused, unstoppable. The ground shook beneath their boots, the sound of their march echoing through the alien forests. For generations, humanity had been seen as weak, peaceful, tame. But tonight, the galaxy saw their true face again. Mara's team broke through the outer defenses, moving toward the Imperial containment towers. Inside, hundreds of human children huddled in fear. The guards shouted orders, but the air suddenly filled with the hum of approaching dropcraft. Then came the sound that would haunt the Empire forever, the deep rolling thunder of the Leviathan's cannons. The walls shook, the ground cracked, and moments later the gates blew open. Mara stepped through the smoke, her armor scorched and her eyes blazing. When the children saw her, silence fell. She removed her helmet and smiled softly. You're safe now, she said. A small boy stepped forward, tears in his eyes. Are you from Earth? Mara knelt down and nodded. Yes, child, she said. And we came for you. Above them, the final battle raged. Imperial fleets tried to regroup, but the Echo Corps had already infiltrated their systems. Weapons turned against their masters, ships collided in chaos. The Empire's might shattered under its own arrogance. Commander Jin Tao's voice echoed through every human ship. This is for every child stolen, every colony burned, every life they thought forgotten. The Leviathan's main cannon charged one last time. The energy glowing brighter than a star, its target, the Imperial Command Citadel, where the High Chancellor and his fleet admirals hid in terror. The moment before firing, Jin whispered, "This is humanity's answer." The cannon fired, and the beam tore through the void, striking the Citadel with impossible force. A wave of light spread across the planet. Erasing the Empire's throne from existence, silence followed. Only the hum of engines and the soft static of comms filled the air. Then came the voice of the Echo Corps, calm and eternal. It is done, it said. The children are safe. Mara stood on the battlefield, surrounded by smoke and ashes. She looked up at the stars and whispered, "Then we go home." As the fleet left Thraxis, humanity's flag waved once more. It was broadcast across the galaxy, carried by every frequency, every network, every species, and the message was simple. Do not touch Earth again. Across alien worlds, empires trembled. They remembered the ancient warning. that when humanity fights, they fight for all of their kind, and that no power in the galaxy can stand against the fury of a united Earth. The Leviathan sailed through the stars, its engines glowing softly. Inside its hull, laughter replaced silence. Children slept safely for the first time in years. Commander Jintao looked out the window and smiled faintly. "The galaxy will remember this day," he said. Mara's voice replied through the comms, warm and tired. "Yes," she said. "They'll remember. Because when they took our children, they didn't just awaken our wrath." She looked at the stars one last time. They reminded the galaxy who humans truly are. And in the endless dark, Earth's light burned brighter than ever.